So as we know that, understand, so we have a two holes called as nostrils. So then you can observe here, these nostrils are immediately connected by some kind of understanding, some kind of a pipe. So that is only we used to call it as like a passage. That is only we used to call it as what we should call
Nasal cavity.
nasal passage. That is the second one, second important part of our breathing. So now nasal passage, and you may observe here, this is called as mouth cavity or buccal cavity. Mouth cavity also we can call it as what? Buccal cavity, where we can eat. So now between these nostrils, means this nasal passage and this buccal cavity, we have this region. You may observe here, this region, all of you, that is called as one of the strongest bone. Understand? So that bone is only called as what? Bony palate. Understanding? Bony palate. So that is the bone which is present here between the nasal cavities and, understanding, nostrils and the mouth cavity. Do you understanding, all of you?
Yes, sir.
So that is what you should remember. That bone name called as bony palate. P-A-L-A-T, palate. So there it is there in the picture. You can observe here. This is what it is. Understanding that? This is called as bony palate. Understand? So now, as we know that, understand, so once the nose, the passage in the nose behind the nostrils, which we used to call as nasal passage, or else we used to call as nasal cavity. Understand? So the air for respiration is drawn into our body through these nostrils, which are present in the nose only. So whatever the air is present atmosphere, it will be drawn into our body through these nostrils, which are present in the nose. So later this air goes into where? Once the air is entering into the nostrils, where it will goes? It will goes into the second part. What is called as? What is that?
Nasal passage.
Nasal cavity. Is it a
Nasal passage.
It is entering into the nasal cavity.
Nasal cavity.
Understanding that is what you should remember. And this is for food, Ray. That is for food. Understanding. Pairings is for food, not for disease. Understand? So, as we know that it will entering into the nasal passage. So later here the nasal passage is separating from the mouth cavity. Understand? It is not common. It is separating from the mouth cavity or buccal cavity. So that is only we used to call it as what? The bone which is separating is called as what? What we should call? Understand what it is called? By hard and bony palate, so that we can breathe in air even when we are eating food. Understanding? And mouth cavity same time. That is what will happen. So because of we have a separation here, you may observe we have a separation. Our nostrils, our nasal passage and our mouth cavity both are separated with some kind of a hard bone palate. So that is why during eating food also we can breathe at a time, and as well as we can eat through the buccal cavity. Do you understanding, all of you? And few times.
Yes, sir.
Suddenly we people see that the food is also, understanding, will come through the nostrils during vomiting and all, and we will feel even very headache. Is it a certain, by the time something like an unpredictable reaction will happen, because unfortunately a few times the food is, instead of mouth, it will travel through the nasal passage or nasal cavity. It will leads to, understanding, not supply of oxygen or else air. So that is why we used to get the suffocation, like we'll get immediately cough. Is it yes or no? Yes, so that is what you should remember. So here during the breathing also we will eat. How it is possible means because of, understand. So this nasal passage has been separated from the mouth cavity or buccal cavity by a hard substance called as what? Hard substance called as what?
Bony palate. Bony palate.
Understanding, bone palate. So now when we'll breathe, now air is where? Air is entering into the nasal passage. Is it yes or no? So now
Yes, sir.
the nasal passage is lined with a fine kind of hair and mucus. Understand? So that is why you may observe a mucus is secreted by the glands, which is inside by the nasal passage. Everybody, you may check it. Our nasal passages, nostrils inside, we have a hair also. Do you have a hair? Everybody must have hair, correct or not? Which will filter the air.
Yes, sir.
the importance of it. And as well as we know that mucus is used to produce in our nostrils, in this nasal passage. It has been secreted by the glands which is present in the nasal passage. Understand? So now, when air passes through this nasal passage, the dust particles and other impurities also present in that. So that is what we have a understanding. Hair in the nostrils or nasal passage. Do you understanding that? So why we have hair? Do we have hair or not? Everybody will check it in our nose. We have a hair. Is it yes or no? Nobody will respond. Why, Ray? Do you don't have hair? So everybody we have a hair in this nasal passage because to prevent what? To prevent not the food. That is what you said.
Waste, sir. Mucus to run.
Breathing, our air contains so many dust particles and as well as some other impurities. So that is why, understand. So this hair which is present, understand, will trapped by this nasal hair and mucus, so that it will clean. Understanding, air goes into the lungs. Before the air entering into the lungs, it will clean up by two things. So that is why the secretion of mucus is good or bad for us. Anybody? The secretion of mucus is
Good.
must be, understanding, mucus must be secreted by the glands which are present in the nasal passage, because this mucus and as well as, understanding, nasal hair, they will trap. What they will trap, Ra? They will trap dust
Dust particles.
and
Particles from going inside.
unwanted substances. So everything will be trapped here itself. So before entering into the air, understanding, air entering into the lungs, it has been what? Filtered. Is it understanding, all of you? So only air
Yes,
is
sir.
into inside the lungs. Do you understanding? So clean air will goes into the lungs. So later, the part of the throat between the mouth and the windpipe, that is only we used to called as pharynx. Understanding, PHARYNX, pharynx. In the picture you may observe. So the part which is present here, pharynx, which is part of what? Windpipe and what? Ra? Windpipe and between what?
Nasal passage.
Trachea tube. Understanding. The trachea is a tube which is we used to call as windpipe. So the air which is coming from this nostrils, which will entering into during breathing, it will passes through the trachea only. But between here, and the understanding and the mouth, mouth and the windpipe, we have understanding a body part called as pharynx, PHARYNX, pharynx. Understanding the part of throat between the mouth and the windpipe, that is only used to called as pharynx. All of you should note it down, that one. Understanding between the mouth and the trachea, windpipe is only called as what we should call pharynx. That is for food pipe we can call. Remember here. So air will come like this and it will entering into like this. This is what air will enter. Do you understanding, all of you? Yes or no? Now, through this, here we have one more part called as pharynx. So here, whatever the food we eat, what will happen, Ra? It will goes into the digestive system. Is it yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is what you should remember. Okay. So now, so this is middle part which is present between the mouth and the windpipe, or else we used to call it as trachea. So now, air is filtered by the what we should call nasal hair, and as well as the mucus secreted by the glands, mucus glands, and air will be filtered. Now the filtered air is entering into where? Filtered air is entering into
lungs,
entering into where? Trachea.
lungs,
We used to call it as what?
Windpipe.
It is not
Pipe.
lung set. It is still where? Still, it is a
Trachea.
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 We used to common name of trachea is called as what? Common name
Windpipe.
of windpipe.
Windpipe.
Now, coming from the nostrils during this breathing passes through this trachea only. Nostrils to nasal passage, immediately it will entering into the windpipe. So now, here trachea does not collapse even when there is no air in it, because it is supported by the rings of soft bones, which we used to call as, like already Dina said. Understand? So as we know that Understand? So like you may observe here, all of you, windpipe, when the air is present inside it or not, it will never collapse. Like contraction and relaxation won't be there. It will be exactly always in the similar shape. It will be exactly always in a similar shape because it has been, understanding, enclosed by some kind of a rings called as, what is that, Dina? Dina said that. What is that?
Bronchus.
It is most important one. So the windpipe is enclosed by, what is that, please? Let me know. Anybody knows? Cartilage. This rings only. What we should call them?
The piece of cartilage.
Cartilage. All of you, do you understanding? So because of this cartilage,
Yes, sir.
suppose see, this is the water pipe. So it has been holded by some rings surrounding by it, so that no contraction and no relaxation. Do you understanding, all of you?
Yes, sir.
So that is why, sir. Why, sir, means if there is nothing, then it will be collapsed. It may be stuck also. So you may see some cases. Understanding. So windpipe has been closed for some people. So every month they have to go and will change that windpipe. You may see that rare cases also. Understand? I have seen one of my known relatives. She has used to face that problem so many years. So every month they used to change that, replace the. Understanding? Say here throat they will change the pipe. Some artificial windpipe they will arrange because of not functioning of this windpipe properly. So to avoid the collapse, understanding, even when there is no air in it, because of it, it is supported by a rings of soft bones. What we should call? Rings of
Soft bone.
soft bones. That is what you should remember. So it has been enclosed by rings of soft bones. That is only we used to call as what? What we should
Cartilage.
cartilage. You should remember. Understand, Dina, now? Do you understand, Dina? So it has been covered by a soft bones called as cartilage. Now, the upper end of the trachea, we have a something. Sir, are you able to hear my voice? Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
So the upper end of the windpipe or trachea, we have something called as. Can anybody say what is that? In the picture you may observe. Upper end of the windpipe, we have a something called as here, a little bit larger. Larynx. Understanding? So larynx. So this is only we used to call it as what?
Voice box.
Voice box. Do you understanding, all of you? So just you have to notice it. The upper end which is present just above the understanding trachea, which is only we used to call as larynx, which is useful.
Larynx.
What is the purpose of voice box? Which will produce
What?
sound. Understand? Understand? Whatever I am able to speak, that is what we used to call as larynx. Do you want to see my voice box? You may see I am having a little bit bigger. Have you seen my voice box here? That is what we used to call as understanding. Adam's apple. Adam's apple, next we have a voice box. Adam's apple will decide the growth. Is it yes or no? Vocal cords.
Yes, sir.
Very good, Nitina.
Yes.
Adam's apple will decide growth. Once the Adam's apple is able to see in the openly like this, actually our family we have little bit bigger in size Adam's apple. We can able to see clearly, but so many we cannot. But Adam's apple, understand, will represent the growth. Once the Adam's apple growth will stop, it will be exposing out. Then the growth of the human will be no more. That is what. So this is the till here. We have studied what? Till trachea. So just trachea above, we have some part, important part, which will be useful to understanding, produce the sound. That is what we should call as. What we should call? What
Larynx.
voice box, or we should call it as larynx. Is there any doubt, anybody? Understand, Ra? So now the trachea after over, understanding, now pharynx over, larynx over, now we are entering into the trachea. So the air is entering into the windpipe or this trachea. So now as we know that trachea runs down, understanding, the neck, and it will divide into two smaller tubes. The tubes is only called as what? It has been, you see, it has been just understanding traveled down, and it has been dividing into two parts. So the two parts is called as what? What we should call? Bronchus.
Bronchus.
Also another one called as bronchus. So let me see. All you are all biology students only, correct? So what is the plural form of bronchus? We have see now windpipe is separating into two pipes.
Bronchi.
Single
Bronchi.
pipe. Single
Bronchi.
pipe is separating into two pipes. Can you able to say what is the plural form of that?
Bronchi.
Bronchi.
What is you have to remember. So the windpipe will runs down, understanding, to the neck and it will divide into the two smaller tubes, which we used to call as bronchi, or else we can call it as what? Bronchus. Understanding all of you? Bronchus, actually two bronchus we have. So this is one and this is another one. So together the plural form of this one, what we should call Ra? Plural form of
Bronchi.
this as bronchi. Can you able to remember all of you? So now air is reaches to where? Air is reaches to
Lungs.
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 Now all of you should speak.
Lungs.
From where it will came? Sir, do number of alveoli increases as we yes, yes, Dina. It is size will increases, Dina. Every part will grow in our body, depend upon the age. Understand? Everything size will increases. Okay. So that everything number of olive oils also will increases. Olive oils. Next. So tell me now from the first way what is happening till bronchial or bronchi. Please tell me what is the process happening fully. Everybody try to form the sentence and then only you can learn. Speak now. Air is entering from where?
From nose. Air is entering from nostrils and passing through the nasal passage and
Nasal cavity and next one what? That mouth cavity has been separated by some kind of bone called as hard one called as what?
bony
Bony pack.
And later it has been entering into understanding nasal cavity. So nasal cavities we have a hair and as well as mucus which will what? Which will trap
the dust
and other impurity.
waste particles.
So what is happening because of that? A clean air goes into the lungs. So the part of throat, understanding between the mouth and the windpipe, which has been present called as what? Pharynx. So the nasal is from the nasal passage, air enters into the pharynx, and then it will goes into the where? It will goes into the windpipe. Is it yes or no? So, the nasal passage, air will entering into the pharynx, and pharynx it will entering into where? It will entering into where?
voice box.
Voice box, not windpipe. Voice box is present, understanding, just above the windpipe. Just you have to remember it. So now it is entering into the windpipe. So windpipe, and also we can call it as what? Trachea.
Trachea.
To avoid the damage, understand, to avoid the damage of collapsing of this windpipe, it has been covered by a soft bone. That is only we used to call it as what?
Cartilage.
Cartilage.
The trachea, we have some kind of a system called as larynx, or else we used to call it as voice box. Later, this understand this trachea runs down and it has been separating into two smaller tubes. That is only we used to call it as bronchus. At the lower end, understanding. At the lower end, understanding the singular, understanding the two bronchi are connected to the two lungs. You may observe here. So the two bronchi, this is one bronchus and another bronchus. Both are connected to the which part? They are connected to the next part. What?
Lungs.
So now air is
Bronchiole.
what is the position of air
Bronchiole.
now? Position of air. Air reaches where?
Lungs.
Alveoli. Inside the lungs.
Lungs it is reaches.
Bronchioles
not,
inside lungs.
alveoli. Understanding? Lungs it is reaches. Now from the lungs, the main process will begins. Understand? So once this understand, the air will reaches to these lungs. So these are two bronchs which are connected to the lungs. So the lungs lie in the chest cavity, or else we used to call it as thoracic cavity. What we should call that one? That lungs cavity we can call it as thoracic cavity. Always remember textbook. Few times in exam they may give the chest cavity, or also we can call it as what? Thoracic cavity. Understand? So chest cavity, another name is called as thoracic cavity, and alveoli also. So many don't know. It is also we can call it as what? Air sacs. So why it is air sacs means here only the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide will take place between air and as well as what? Blood. Do you understanding, Ra? So that is why they used to
Yes,
call it
sir.
as air sacs. Air will suck,
Air
means oxygen will release into the blood, and the blood will supply the carbon dioxide to the back into this. That is what, to send it outside. So all of you, do you understanding, Ra?
Yes, sir.
Now, so now air is entering into which part? Lungs. So in lungs also we used to call it as, what is it called as? Chest cavity. Understanding, Ra? What we should call? Chest cavity.
Chest
Also
cavity.
named as what? Thoracic cavity.
Thoracic cavity.
Cavity, which has separated from abdominal cavity by the muscular portion, which we used to call it as diaphragm. Which we used to call it as what? Diaphragm.
Diaphragm.
So below this diaphragm, we have something. What is that called as? Anybody can say? We have an abdomen. This part is called as what?
abdomen.
Abdomen. That is what? Correct. So you may observe between the this is this region, whatever we have, stomach, understand, this region is called as abdomen. So between the chest cavity and the abdominal cavity, we have a middle, some kind of a barricade. That is what we should call it as what? What we should call?
Diaphragm.
Diaphragm.
Diaphragm is made up of what? Diaphragm is made up of
Of muscles.
Sheath muscle.
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 Below the diaphragm, chest cavity has been separated by whom? Is separated by whom? Abdominal cavity. What is called? Abdominal cavity. This part, our digestive system. Abdominal cavity. Abdominal cavity. You may see that few times you people will get abdominal pain. Right side or left side, your father or mother will ask. If it is right side, it is very dangerous. Correct or not? Left side means normally because of not eating proper food, it will come. Right side means some part, understand, will damage inside our stomach, so that you can see 24 hours emergency stomach pain. Have you noticed it? Within 24 hours, they will do the operation also. Correct? Abdominal pain
Yes,
rate,
sir.
appendix. Have you remembered appendix? You may
Yes,
have
sir.
of appendix. So, abdominal cavity just below chest cavity or thoracic cavity has been separated by a thin sheet of muscles. So that is what we should call it as. What we should call them as? Diaphragm. Understand? So now air is entering into our chest cavity. That's all. So this is what you should remember. So here inside, let it be this again, this branches divide into the lungs. They will form a large number of still even smaller and smaller tubes. That is what we should call it as bronchioles. Understand? So now before that, you see the chest is covered. The lungs are enclosed by some kind of substance. That is what we should call it as we know already. It is been covered by what? Chest has been enclosed by whom? Chest has been enclosed by whom?
Ribcage.
Ribcage.
Protection, correct or not? Protection for the chest. And also it will be useful in understanding expansion and contraction, or means relaxation and contraction of lungs when they are breathing inside oxygen and they are sending the out. Understand? So now if you observe here, as we know that the lungs are enclosed in a rib cage, and which is made up of what? Made up of rib cage is made up of ribs only, correct? Ribs only. But in this diagram, it is that they are understanding the diagram. They are not showing the rib cage, understanding, because just a normal. It is they have kept only the lungs. Now you may observe lungs are covered by two thin membranes. Can you able to say what is that? In the picture you may observe, you can see that. The picture you can see, we are able to see the lungs are covered by two thin membranes. What is that called as? Anybody? Two thin membranes. This is what the two thin membranes. One, and this membranes. It is actually covered with the two thin membranes. What is that? Anybody? What is the name of that? That is the most important. Any idea? Anybody? You have already studied, correct? So lungs are covered by two thin membranes. This is a membrane, like a protection for the lungs. What is that called as? Any idea? Anybody, please? Do you know or don't know? Respond at least that. Don't know? Pleura. P-L-E-U-R-A, pleura, right? That is the most important point. The lungs are covered by two thin membranes called as pleura. P-L-E-U-R-A. The lungs are covered by two thin membranes called as pleura. The lungs are covered by two thin membranes. Must remember, all of you, most important, not ribra, Nitinath. Ribs are next outer. There is no connection between the lungs and the rib. Remember that. So on the surface of lungs, we have a two double coated membranes. So that is only we should call it as what, Amma? What we should call?
Pleura.
Worry. You have to note it down. Very, very important understanding for NTSC and for entrance exams and all. What is this? Biology what? Then what you are remembering? Write it. Pleura. PLE, you are a pleura. So as we know that later it has been covered outer surface of this lungs. We have a rib cage which has been made up of ribs. Correct or not? So now,
Yes, sir.
later entering into the bronchus now. So as we know that trachea has been separating into two forms. That is only we used to call it as what? Bronchus. Correct or not? Or we used to call it as bronchi. Understand? Now if you'll observe, these bronchi is further dividing into the understanding a very, very smaller tubes, understanding, to form a large number of smaller tubes. That is what we should call it as. What we should call it in the picture. Observe all of you.
Bronchioles.
What is that picture called as? Where they are? Bronchioles. Have you noticed it? So this bronchis or bronchus has been again further separating into the smaller tubes. This is called as the smaller tubes. So what is that called as? Bronchiole.
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 Further, like a small division. Small divisions of these pipes. Every pipe is called as bronchioles. Do you understanding, all of you? Now we have
Yes, sir.
flower kind of substance. That is what we should call it as alveoli.
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 Understand? So again, this bronchus has been dividing the lungs to form a large number of, understanding, still smaller tubes called as bronchioles. What is the use of bronchioles? Can anybody say? Because they will increase the surface area of lungs so that more air will sac. Do you understanding, Ra? All of you? That is the important.
Yes, sir.
Increasing the surface area. That is why we are taking the huge amount of air, so which will meet the requirement of oxygen supply of our body. Because as we know that our body is very, very huge. Is it yes or no? Which is made up of understanding millions of particles. So every particle need oxygen. So if you want to provide that, then the surface area must be much larger. So that is why it has been that. Do you understanding, Ra? Even I will say you how much
Yes, sir.
will unfold it. If your human lungs are separated, means like unfolding, understanding, then it will give you an area about, do you believe it, 80 square meters. Like in tennis court. Do you know almost tennis court? How many of you have seen tennis court? I think yesterday also one match has happened. So our one lungs, if you'll make it unfolded, then almost it will be give an equal size of 80 square meter, like one tennis court. Means imagine then how much big it is, but it has been, understanding, closed, unfolded. Do you understanding, all of you?
Okay, sir.
That is.
Yes,
So
sir.
let us comes to here. As we know that bronchus are further dividing into small parts, small tubes. What we should call them? What we should
Bronchiole.
bronchioles. Understanding. What is the spelling of bronchioles? Everybody learn the spelling. What is the spelling?
Bronchiole.
Bronchioles. Bronchioles. Smaller tubes. The smaller tubes is only ways to called as bronchioles. Now bronchioles at the last, everywhere after the bronchioles, last part of the chest, last part of our lung system, like these flowers. What is this called as, Ra?
Alveoli.
Alveoli. Also is to called as air sacs.
Sacs.
The pouch-like air sacs at the ends of the smallest bronchioles, that is only we used to called as alveoli. Understanding? Alveoli. So this alveoli is the plural form of, understanding, a singular one. So what is that singular one? Can anybody say? Alveolus. Alveolus. Understanding? What is that called as?
Alveoli.
Understanding? Nobody knows. Everybody will. That is only alveoli only know. So alveolus is the singular form of what?
Alveoli.
Form of Alveoli. Please note it down, all of you. Alveoli. Understanding, Ra? So this flower-like structure, air sacs only we used to call it as what, Ra? The air sacs at the end of these smaller bronchioles are called as alveoli. So the walls of these alveoli are very thin, and they are surrounded by a very thin blood capillaries, very thin blood capillaries. So in this alveoli, understand that the oxygen is taken into the blood, understanding body, and the carbon dioxide is eliminated. Means the exchange of oxygen from the air and the carbon dioxide from the blood, both interchanging, will takes place at where? Takes place at
Alveoli.
alveoli. So that is why I can say alveoli, understanding, is called as what? The gas, understanding, the place where the gaseous exchange will takes place. That is what you should write. Understand? So alveoli, that gaseous exchange will takes place. Understanding? So that is what. So this is all about the human respiratory system. So if you observe here, it will start from nostrils and it will end with what? Alveoli. Correct or not? So now if you observe, the human lungs has been designed to maximize the exchange of gases because to meet the requirement of our understanding oxygen body supply. So if you observe here, there are millions of alveoli in the lungs, millions of alveoli in the lungs. So the presence of millions of alveoli in the lungs, which will provide very large area for the exchange of gases. That is the main importance of alveoli. So they are present in millions of number. The count of alveoli is in millions. So because of that, understanding this alveoli will provide huge amount of area for the exchange of what? For the exchange of gases. For the exchange of gases like CO2 without any understanding disturbance, so that understanding enough oxygen will be supplied through the supplied for our body, because they will increase us, they will maximize us the exchange of gases by large surface area. So that is what you should remember. So if all this olive oil from the two human lungs, we have a two human lungs. So if you take it all this olive oil and if you have started unfolded, they would give you an area about how much, Ra? They will give you an area about what?
80 square.
Alveoli, if you make unfolded, it will give you about our understanding
80
square meter. 80 square meter, which is equals to what?
110 is
1 tennis ground. All of you note it down. That much big surface area. So that is why, understanding, the gases exchange is happening very freely without any problem. Do you understanding, Ra? All of you?
Yes, sir.
That is what.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as we know that below that lungs, chest cavity ends with what? A last sheet of muscles. What we should call?
Diaphragm.
Diaphragm. What is the use of diaphragm? Anybody? What is the use of diaphragm? Breathing in and breathing out. Correct?
Breathing out.
Expansion
Yes, sir.
and
Action and relaxation.
So the diaphragm is a sheet of muscles below the lungs. Understand? Just it will help in breathing in and breathing out. Is it yes or no? Which will help in
Yes, sir.
breathing in and breathing out. That is the use of diaphragm, which will be helpful in breathing in and breathing
Out.
out. So this is all what we should call as chest cavity or else our respiratory system. All of you can able to observe, please let me know. Can you able to see that or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is all about understanding our respiratory system in humans, and you may understand very well. Now, please, we have a 5 minutes time. So from the first, at least all the parts, what you have remembered. Can you able to say what is the parts related in the chest cavity, this respiratory system? Everybody.
Nose.
Where it will enter? Path you should say correctly, because it is a path.
Nostrils, sir.
Nostril.
Very important,
Nostrils.
important point you should say.
So it enters through the nostrils.
Next.
Then it goes and reaches trachea, sir. Before that, we have the larynx and pharynx.
Yes, yes. Next.
Then it is divided into two. They are bronchus. The bronchus is surrounded with a soft cartilage. The
How many? Let
The
me
two
Dina also repeats the abdominal cavity. Also to separate the abdominal cavity. Okay. Dina, from the diaphragm, later exchanging of gases like oxygen. As you know, the till alveoli we have studied. Now oxygen and carbon dioxide will exchange. Later oxygen how it will be carried, and again how it will come back. Carbon dioxide. That is all will continue in the tomorrow. Now you should tell me. Let me see who will ask. Anybody I will ask. For example, what is the use of cartilage? Karthikeyan, Ashika, Anusri, what is the use of cartilage?
The gas.
What is the use of cartilage? Which will prevent the what? Which will prevent the cartilage? No response. What is the use of cartilage? Anybody? Which does not allow collapse. Collapse of what? Collapse of windpipe. Yes or no?
Yes, it protects the wind.
There is no air present in the windpipe. Windpipe may, understanding, contract. So to avoid that, it has been covered by some rings. That is what we should call as smooth bone muscles. Understanding, the smooth bone muscles called as cartilage. Correct or not? So now,
Yes.
what is the two double membrane present on the surface of the lungs? Membrane
Pleura.
present on the surface of the lungs.
pleura membrane.
What?
Membrane.
Pleura.
Pleura membrane.
Pleura.
Pleura, sir.
You are a pleura. That is what you should remember. Understanding? So chest cavity also known as. Chest cavity also known as.
There
Anybody?
Thoracic cavity.
Chronic cavity.
Thoracic cavity. Understand? All of you should remember. Chest cavity also called as thoracic cavity. Rib cage is made up of. Rib cage is made up of.
Ribs.
Smooth muscles.
Bones are called as ribs. Understand? Next. Which part the gaseous exchange will take place?
Alveoli.
Further, a smaller tubes of bronchus is called as
Bronchioles.
Bronchioles.
understanding.
Bronchioles.
Do you understand, Indra? What is the use of alveoli? Alveoli. What is the use of alveoli?
Exchange of gases.
It will increase the large surface area. Understanding, so that the gases exchange will take place very free. Is it yes or no? They will provide a very large area for the exchange of gases because they are present in millions in count. So that is why they will maximize the exchange of gases by increasing what? A large surface area. Availability of large surface area of alveoli, they will maximizes the exchange of gases. That is what you should remember. Maximizes the exchange of exchange of gases. Understanding? That is the use of what? Alveoli. All of you
Alveoli.
point. Note that point. The next we will end. Alveoli. Use of alveoli is what? What is that?
Yes.
Exchange of gases. Maximizes the exchange of gases. That is what you should write it. Maximizes the exchange of gases. So this is all about this today's class. I hope you may understand very well respiratory system in humans. It is not end.
Yes.
Respiration is not a process of just only giving oxygen. Again, what is the respiration? Reverse also it is there.
leaving out.
So that reverse also will study from here will continue tomorrow. So with this I will stop. I hope you all understand very well. Anybody is having any doubt, you ask me. Or else